So this is the expense manager application. So what this application does is this application stores the data of the amount of money spent by the user in a given duration or interval separately by dates. So this application has total 4 activities. So firstly talk about the main activity of the application. This main activity is divided into 2 fragments, the add new fragment and the today fragment. Firstly we talk about the add new fragment. This add new fragment has one text view called add new expense, which means the application name, and by the use of this fragment the user can add its data. So what this fragment does is this fragment helps the user to input the data of the amount of money spent by the user and on which category the amount had been spent by the user. So let's talk about this. So for example, I input 400 rupees, 400. So this edit text will help me enter 400 in the database, and also I select the category as money transfer. So which means that I had spent 400 rupees on money transfer today. So it stores the date as the it stores the date when the user inputs the data. It stores the date as well with the data which the user had entered in the database. So when I click this button called add expense, this data will be added in the database and a toast will be shown like expense added successfully. So which means that the user will know that the data that the user had entered is stored successfully in the database of the application. So now moving on to the today fragment. So the today fragment shows the database of the amount of money spent by the user in the given date in today itself. So what this fragment does is this fragment shows the total expense, total amount of money spent by the user today. Like I as a user had spent 16,250 rupees today, and also it will show the database in a list view form with the category and as well as the amount spent on that specific category. Like I had spent money transfer, I had spent 400 rupees in the category money transfer, and also I had spent 800 rupees today on rent, 50 rupees today on shopping, 15,000 rupees today on traveling. So this is the second fragment which shows the database that the user had entered today, or the amount of money that the user had spent today. This amount will be calculated based on the sum of the total data entered by the user. 400 plus 800 plus 50 plus 15,000 is 16,250. So this is the first activity. So now let's talk about the second activity of the application. This is the second activity called add category. This will be opened by clicking the menu bar and the button which is in the menu bar called add category. So what this activity does is this activity helps the user to create a new category in the application on which the user can spend his money. For example, I will enter bus fare. So which means that I am trying to add one more category in the application on which I can spend my money. The user can spend his or her money. So when I click this button called add category, this will store this data in the category section in the database. So I will show that. So you can see that bus fare category has been added in the spinner of the category section. So this activity helps the user to create a new category for the database of the application. So now moving on to the third activity. So this is the third activity called current week's expenses. So what this activity does is this activity shows the total amount of money that had been spent by the user in a specific week, in the last week itself. So, and it will also show the amount of money spent on a specific date separately in the last week. So as it is showing that yesterday means 6 June, I had spent 1,000 rupees on health category and 10,000 rupees on shopping, and it will also show the amount of money spent by today, and it will also show the total amount of money spent on a specific date, and also show the details on which things the money had been spent by the user. So this is the second date, which means today. So today I have spent 16,250 rupees on money transfer, rent, shopping, travel. So it will also show the details on how the money had been spent by the user. So this is the third activity called this week. Now we will move on to the fourth activity called this month. So this is the fourth activity called current month's expense. So what this activity shows is, firstly, this activity will show the total amount of money the user had spent in last month. In last month, in the last 30 days, how much money is spent by the user. So the total expense, which means 27,250, I have spent in the last month, in the last 30 days, and also it will show graphically the amount of money spent on which category. For example, on health, I have spent 1,000 rupees, and it will also show the database in a graphical way, so that user can visualize on how much money the user is spending on which particular category the more. So this will help the user to make a budget plan for his next month, so that he will spend his money in a good way next month, in the next 30 days, for the next 30 days. So this is our expense manager application, which has four activities. So thank you so much.